Hi, I'm Becky Lucas. I'm 28 years old. I'm originally from Brisbane, but I live in Sydney now. I find people being defensive really funny. I was at a music festival recently, and the guy, you know, the people who've got to suck the shit out of the portaloos? There was a guy there, and it's like he's clearly sucking shit from a big pipe into a van. Let's not be. And he was just very defensive about it. He just was very like, yep, guys, I'm here doing this. It's normal. That's my job. Great, I love it. I'm outdoors. It's like, yeah, all right. Like, I find that sort of stuff really funny. I mean, I remember laughing a lot. I was always getting kicked out of class, but I could have just been a maniac. I was a little bossy, precocious kid. I would just tell my dad what I was doing. I was never scared. I feel like that's it's not the 50s. Like, I remember one time my friend's mum told my friend, this was when we were about 5 or 6, that she was going out to get her a surprise. And she went to my house and she picked me up and she brought me back home and said, surprise, Becky's here, this is a surprise. And my friend just started crying. And I remember thinking, that's pretty funny. There's a thing called having an albatross in stand-up where you might bomb in front of one person just all the time. For some reason, whenever they're there, you just have a bad gig and you can't, it becomes a mental block. So sometimes conquering that albatross and having someone see you have a good gig, they don't give a shit, but that's always good for me. Before a show, I like to have 2 standard drinks and talk to other comics and just get in a good state of mind. My comedy it's never going to be talked about as being powerful or anything, but it's fun. Like, it's something that I like to just feel like someone's hanging out with a friend and it's a fun hour. People know their perfect audience, but it's hard to say. You go to an RSL somewhere and someone's sitting there with a bourbon and Coke or whatever. It's like, well, you're not going to like me. It's just we're very different paths in life. Like, I'm not drinking bourbon.
I'm supposed to put this over here, actually. What's going on? So I've had a few. What about you? Yeah, I've had a few white wines, a few dub-dubs. Love it. I think white wine should be a Class A drug, though, because it makes you go crazy. Do you know what I mean? Like, you have a beer, you're like, oh, I feel good. You have a white wine, you're like, I'm going to text him. I'm going to clarify something he said in 2013. I want to know, so... I like to drink. I like to smoke too, which I know is wrong. I was having a cigarette with my friend a few weeks ago, just sort of like, oh, what could go wrong? And this man walked up to us. He was wearing a leather fedora. Thank you, because I think if you're wearing a leather fedora, you're 100% the sort of guy who leaves comments underneath pornos. Just like, But he walked up to us, he said to my friend, he said, oh, you are too beautiful to be smoking. And then he just turned to me and said, can I have one? That's good, gave him one, good to network. It's called networking for a reason, it works. I have like some beautiful friends, because they always complain about stuff I don't fully comprehend. Like, my friends always complain about how they hate getting catcalled. I'm like, I don't have that. The only time I ever sort of get catcalled is very early in the morning. It's before the tradies have had time to calibrate what's hot. They're like, I don't know, I haven't had a chocky milk. I can't fully... And then during the day I don't get catcalls, I get dad nods. If you don't know what a dad nod is, it's when a dad's driving along and he sees me and he just goes, huh. He doesn't want to fuck me. It's just like, you've kept yourself neat. Still playing netball. I'm like, yeah, I am actually. Well, it's hard. I'm trying to get a mixed team together, but it's not like it's like a whole thing. But thanks for coming to the show. Woo. Yeah, woo indeed. Thank you. I mean, it's hard. I get scared about having people here because I don't like my voice. Does anyone like their own voice? Do you remember the first time you ever heard your own voice? You just, burn that person, yuck. I think it's one of those first realizations you have in adulthood. It's that, and then I think also when you figure out that your cousins have other cousins. Remember that? You're like, what the fuck? You're doing all of this with another family. I feel like you're being cheated on. It's the worst. But thank you for coming, because I'm always scared this is a big surprise for someone. Like, boyfriend said to his girlfriend, I've got a surprise for you tonight. And she's like, it's happening. Just my solo show. I think I had a bit of a surprise earlier this year. I was doing the Melbourne Comedy Festival, and I had to book my Airbnb, and so I went online, booked it, right, and I thought I was booking my own place, right, but then when I turned up for my accommodation for an entire month, the door was open to me, and standing there was just an elderly Vietnamese couple. And still I thought, well, maybe they'll just show me the place and then rack off. But no. For an entire month, I shared quite a small house with an elderly Vietnamese couple, recently retired. That is important because they were living it up at home. Right? A lot of rules, right? I had an 11 p.m. curfew. I wasn't allowed to have unregistered guests, so that was good. If I wanted to bring a guy home, all I had to do was get a copy of his birth certificate and 2 passport photos. Guys get hard for admin, don't they? I know, I love them. I'm like, photocopy, slip. That's my pussy. In case you weren't quite clicking onto that, but... But we started to get along, Van and Ter, loved him. We started to get along, get to know each other, but yeah, very in my space. And one day they put on a little lunch for me. It was really nice, actually, quite delicious. Love the cuisine. We were sitting and talking. They had a really interesting life, and Ter was telling me about her life. She was telling me, you know, they were both put in jail during the communist regime, and she looked at me in the eye and she said, you know, my baby was taken away from me and I was in jail for 6 months. I was put in jail. The only sunlight I saw for 6 months was through the crack of a window. And I was like, yeah, but I didn't think I was going to be sharing a kitchen. So try and see like where I'm coming from right now in this moment. All right, cool. I think some surprises are good, some surprises are bad. Last year I got caught having sex wearing a backpack. Go into it, all right. Because I've been up at the shops, right? And you know what it's like up there. It's a whirlwind. You don't know what's going to happen, right? Up at the shops, had my backpack on. I was buying some chips. I think burger rings, they're my favourite. Right, and got home, my boyfriend at the time was there and the sex just began. It was like a runaway train, you know what it's like. Didn't have time to take the backpack off. So I'm kind of in this position, right? In the style of dog. And he's back there, he's going for it, he's loving it, he's having a few chips while he's at it. And then his roommate just walked in on me like that, right, like a turtle. And we all just ran into different parts of the home, right? And I say home, that sort of stuff doesn't happen in a home. It was so like you can imagine, it was so mortifying. We were hiding out for hours in his room and we're like, let's just go back into the kitchen. Let's make it normal, right? Let's make it normal. So I went back into the kitchen, started making dinner, normal. And the roommate walked in and he said, oh, guys, look, I know you're a bit weird about what happened before, but don't worry about it, all good. I just have to know, why the backpack? And I didn't know what to say. I just said, he makes me do it. I put it on him, always blame others. Always blame others. It's the takeaway of this show. All right, you guys are cool. I think I've had like quite a few uptight crowds before. I love uptight people. They're so funny to me because they've got so much to lose. Right. They're just walking around like, oh, they're just mad all the time. There's a particular girl I think is very funny. She's an uptight girl. Everyone knows her. Her name's Jacinta and she doesn't have a top lip. Right, she's in every uni group, every workplace. She's like, guys, we got to get this assignment done ASAP. Like, Jacinta, where is your top lip? You've left it at horse camp or some other boring activity that we don't care about, right? It's like, guys, Gelato Messina has a new flavour. I'm super keen to check it out. Are there any in tonight, by the way? Because they are annoying, but they're great for ticket sales. Love to get a whole group together. Then tomorrow they'll be on Facebook Messenger being like, okay, everyone owes me $20. Everyone's like, scene. That's a good diss for your friend if you don't want to write back to them and you see their message, just write scene. They go crazy. It's so good. Yeah. I think with people like that, you just want to say things to make them upset. Do you know what I mean? Like, you just want to poke them. The nerve is exposed. You're like, ooh. I always end up telling my worst story, like the time I pashed my mum. Has anyone here ever pashed their mum? Just a quick woo. Yeah, cool. Because for me, it happened up the shops, as I say, whirlwind. Because when I was quite young, I was obsessed with kissing. I was obsessed with princes and princesses and all that. So I was up the shops with mum, and I went for it, right? Tried to grab her. I was 5. Tried to grab her and pash her, right? She rejected me. But I was desperate. I was like a man at a life during class. So, yeah, I just like the human form. No, you don't, Steve. You have a boner and we feel unsafe. Just move your stool that way. But I was desperate. I was Steve at this point. So as she went to put the bananas or something in the basket, I just grabbed her face and tongue kissed her. So, yeah, Dad was into it. All right. Woohoo! Yeah, it's good. Good to perform, good to be here. Got a call from my mum the other day, actually. It was a bit awkward, you get a call from your past. I was like, do we hook up? I can't. And she called me and she said, I think you've got this thyroid disease. A lot of the women in our family have it, and you've got all the symptoms. You've got weight fluctuation, skin prone to breakouts, and you're quite rude. And I was like, well, I fucking hope I've got it. Otherwise, this has just been quite a mean phone call. Now, I went to the doctor, I'm fine. I've just been medically diagnosed as someone you don't want to hang out with for too long. But it did make me, I was thinking about my personality. And I think, because we all like to think our personalities are these like beautiful little, unique, yeah. But like, I think really you just see a couple people in your life growing up and you're like, oh, boop, 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 take that personality. And I don't know if that's right, but it is my show and I'm just going to run with it. Just going to lean into that. And I always think about some of the people that influenced me. One of them was my drama teacher, Mrs. McCartney, in year 10. She's a very brutal woman, but she's super funny, right? An example of her brutality is in high school, I put on a bit of weight, right? A bit of a chunk lord. And I was getting bullied by the high school bully. And I remember going to Mrs. McCartney for a bit of solace, bit of comfort. And I remember she said to me, well, you know what you need to do? You just need to keep your head up. And that way she won't see your double chins. Which is like quite funny, right? But quite devastating at the time. But because I did have a high school bully. It was the worst. I don't know if any of you guys had one, or maybe you are one. Congratulations. You are one? Oh, you had one, yeah. It's like, oh, what a fun energy. To have a bully in the midst. But I like this bully, she was very boring. All she'd ever say was, ew, yuck. Like, whatever you did, she'd be like, ew, yuck. You'd be like, what's fundamentally wrong with me? She'd be like, I don't know. It's just yuck. And then the best thing happened, she got pregnant at schoolies. If you're not laughing at that, fuck you. Are you serious? It was so good. It was either that or fall off a balcony. It was... Come on. And she's had a few kids since then, which is great. That's awesome. But I just like to imagine for a bit of fun that every time she gives birth, she's like, ew, yuck. Yucky. Don't like that. She was the worst. She used to pick on this girl who was a bit of a nerd. And to get an idea of how much of a nerd this girl was, in high school she left a note at the principal's office and they thought that it might be a suicide note. But they couldn't read it because she'd left it in Elvish. Which is, if you don't know, that's the official language of Lord of the Rings. And they were genuinely worried about her, but like in order to find her, they had to become bullies themselves. Like they came barreling into all the different classrooms trying to find the nerdiest looking kid to decipher the note. They're like, oh, your name's Lorcan, you've got Backney, come with us. And they were correct, Lorcan was fluent. And I remember asking Mrs. McCartney about her. I was like, oh, what happened? And she said, oh, she was fine. She was at the back of the oval. She took 4 Panadol. She actually felt better. That's pretty good. I liked that about her. She didn't take us seriously. Because you shouldn't take teenagers, seriously, our faces are fucked. Do you know what I mean? Like, we're all gross at 14. We all look like Jay-Z, right? That's not a racial joke. He cheated on the most beautiful woman in the world. He looks like a melting candle, all right? And I'm not scared to say it. If he watches this, so be it. I don't care. It was good. Because I went to a really poor school. Like, to get an idea of how poor it was, our principal was also our bus driver. And I went to a fun school where they had, like, rallies in the auditorium and books and stuff. And I remember the only time we were ever asked to gather as one is when someone smeared a shit on the girls' bathroom door. And when that happened, the principal got on the loudspeaker and he said, "All right, ladies and gentlemen, there's been an incident. Someone has smeared what looks to be a human poo on the door of the girls' bathroom, and just like last time, this isn't okay." I think he was particularly annoyed because he was also the cleaner. He was like the Clark Kent of our school, except each time he derobed, it just revealed a more demeaning role. It was a poor school. My friend Sophie and I were both obsessed with the same boy. His name was Shane Edelman. We're always trying to get alone time with Shane. Always trying to get... And one time I found out where he was sitting. He was isolated, right, like a sitting duck. And I decided to walk past in a really cool way, just so he would see me. So I sort of walked past like this. I was like... And he said, "Hey, Becky." And I said, "Hey, Shane." And he said, "Hey, Becky, will you ask Sophie out for me?" That's my friend. And I said, "Yeah, that's cool." Cool, that's just liquid cool. And to show him how cool I was with it, I decided to do like a cool jump. So like there was sort of a bar where he was sitting, and I sort of ran. I was like, off to do that thing you asked me to do, and I ran and I jumped and I grabbed onto the bar, swung once, and then fell and broke both my arms. I had to go to the sick bay. The principal was just there working his fourth job as a school nurse. So and then I had 2 casts on each arm. I was like stuck in a double permanent fist pump. So then Sophie and Shane were dating. I was like, "Great, guys. You guys help me go to the toy? That shit's not going to smear itself." Yeah, all right. I'm a woman of the people. She was, but yeah, Mrs. McCartney, she was a bit of a drunk too, which I think has definitely been an influence on me. I like to drink. I hate who I am when I drink, though. I'm very attention seeky. I was at a bar with my friends recently, and they were all complaining about a creep at the bar. They're like, "Oh, there's a creep over there. He keeps licking his fingers, keeps looking at us, la 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 la." Right? And he hadn't clocked me once, right? So what I did to sort of get in the mix, because I don't like to be left out, is I turned away from them and I engaged with the creep. I gave him a wink, I showed him a tit, and I'm like, he's doing it to me now. That's so annoying. But I loved it, right? I loved it. I drink too much. I know I've been drinking too much because I got blackout drunk the other night, and then I looked at what I've been Googling. It was just drinking games for one. There aren't any. It's a number for suicide hotline pops up. They're like, off you go. You've had enough. Off you go. Right. But I've started, like, as I get older, I think my drinking habits have changed a little bit. I used to text guys I like a bit more, but now I've started emailing women I respect. Do you ever do that? Have a bottle of wine and just shoot one off? Like, you are so brave. You're laughing like you know what that's like. It's humiliating. Like, a guy will just not respond. A woman will send, like, quite a polite response back, but with best. Best Angela. It's humiliating. I've been thinking about my tits a lot lately. Cool. Not in a weird way. I was just thinking the other day, I was like, oh, they're the youngest they'll ever be right now. Right now. Right now. Like, every second that goes past, it's like, now. Like, yours are too, you know what I mean? Show me. I'm doing this new thing called predator comedy. No one likes it, really. But I was just thinking, it's like not a big deal, but they're just sort of there, and I was thinking, I sort of related it to, I'm going to go back up the shops. You know when you're you're up the shops and you get some fruit and vegetables, and you buy them and then you put them in the bottom drawer of the fridge, and then a week or two goes past and you see them there and you think, oh God, I should do up a soup or a stir fry. That's how I feel about my tits. I just want to meet someone. I'm like, can you just touch them before they go off? Well, they're all black and rotting in the fridge. Yeah, cool. I don't know. That's not a joke. Just a woman, female comedian doing a joke about her tits. That's a very clever joke about death and dying. About how we all decay. It's just a joke about my tits. Suck shit. I do think about death and dying a lot, but my biggest fear is heaven because I'm going. But I'm scared about heaven because I'm scared about that first little bit where you're still getting to know everyone, getting to know the culture. I'm scared that it'll feel like that first hour at a wedding where everyone's sober. And then I'm such a brat. There's people who spend their whole life trying to be good to get to heaven, and I'm just like, nah, I don't want to go. It'll be awkward. I won't know anyone. Siebes. Is there a phone charger? I know I'm not treading like new ground by talking about how spoiled this generation is, but it's unbelievable. But it's great. Like, I'm so irritated. I was on a bus the other day and a guy sneezed, and I was like, you don't deserve to live. Constantly irritated, constantly. It's bad. I know it's bad. I joined a group called Christmas Mums on Facebook for a bit of fun. You got to have fun online, right? I joined a group called Facebook Christmas Mums. Thought it'd be fun. Thought it'd be quite a nice place to be. Nah. It's actually quite aggressive, right? There was a woman. She posted a little thing. It said, "Hey girls, here's a handy guide on how to make Christmas bonbons." Right? Within 4 comments, one woman had switched to all caps and said, "Do not tell me how to raise my kids." I was like, what happened? That's crazy. It just feels like everyone's so like agitated. You know what I mean? Like I got a Facebook message from a girl who said, "I'm not coming to your show because it's called Little Bitch, and that's a derogatory term for women." I was like, all right, Jacinta. You're not invited. But I didn't want to reply to it's quite hot in here. Is everyone like quite hot? Are we able to turn the aircon on? I mean, I love the planet too, but can we get it on, please? It's my taping. Fucking taping, dude. You know what I mean? Where was I? I genuinely don't know where I was. I was saying, oh yeah, I wanted to reply, like, you get agitated, like you want to engage in that thing because it feels good. But I'm trying not to do that as much because I think this girl probably thought she was doing the right thing. It's not her fault, she's being a bit annoying, whatever. Right. But it's quite hard to do that because I get tweeted at a little bit, especially by men, and it's never a cute architect saying keep it up. It's usually a man, he's got a profile picture where he's sitting on a barrel. Right. He's got his arm around a dog, he's like, yeah, he's my best friend. The dog's like, no comment. Can't say I reciprocate that. They're always like deep sea fishing, or like hunting. They're looking for something. Their mother's love. We don't know. Probably though, there's something missing. Oh yeah. But I got tweeted at by a guy who sort of had a profile picture like this, and he just said, "You're a bad woman." I was like, well, he's got a point. He's not completely wrong, right? But I was trying not to write back to him. I was like, he's probably had a shitty life, whatever. But I was in a bad mood, so 4 hours later, I'm deep on the internet. And I found him in a sex doll forum. I was like, goody. That's best case scenario. So good, right? Does everyone know what a sex doll is? Don't be ashamed. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of in the name, really, isn't it? It's a doll you have sex with. But it's amazing. Like, they really... And I understand there's some men who have disabilities and they can't meet women, or, there's some men who wear T-shirts with funny slogans so they can't meet women. But it's quite sweet. Like, they really love their dolls, right? There was a guy who put a photo up of his doll and he said, "Oh, this is me and Lucy. We're watching TV tonight. She's letting me pick what we watch," right? There's just a picture of Lucy, like... I was like, oh yeah, Star Wars again. That's the 4th time this week, mate. But then I found my boy, the guy who tweeted at me. It's just, you can have like a phone break if you want to. So I found the guy who tweeted at me, and his name in the forum was Crazy Horny 64. Right, so he's been horny for some time. Just thrusting his way through life. Just, whoa. Right, and a bit of backstory, he's taken his doll April to the hair salon. That's just a bit of, just for your mental whatever. So Crazy Horty 64 says, I took this photo while April was at the hair salon. Yeah, she gets her hair done. I spoil her, but the rewards are so worth it. So that's good. The man who sort of replies to that is called Shakespeare Lover 39, right? He's a bit of a thespian, right? Treads the boards. He says, I am in awe. That is one awesome photo. You are so brave. Yep, cool. Crazy Horty 64 replies after I imagine taking a big sip of Monster Energy drink. We're always out and about. No biggie. Lawrence, the hairstylist, did a very good job of making her a custom wig and styling it for her. And he also gave her some great advice about upkeep. He was awesome. His other customers were very friendly towards April and had tons of questions. I was like, yeah, I bet they did. First question, why are you fucking that big doll? And how do you clean it? That's my question. But look, he's having fun. Good on him. Enjoy your life. Enjoy your life. You've got to. You know, we don't know how long we're here for. But this is a bit that annoys me. He then goes on to say, of course, afterwards she wanted to go shopping. Guess who picked up the bill? Like, nah, bro, she's a doll. Like, you can be an actual doll and men will still accuse you of shopping too much and spending their money. It reminds me of when you're a kid and someone grabs your fist and they're like, stop hitting yourself, stop hitting yourself. He's just dragging this big plastic chunk through the checkout, being like, stop shopping, you dumb bitch. I reckon you're projecting, mate. But I didn't respond. I'm trying to be better than that. But what I did is I just took a couple of screenshots and I posted it in Christmas Mums. Just with the caption, can you believe this guy's just applied to be the new Westfield Santa? Fire up, ladies, fire up. And they did. Whew, they did. So my parents are divorced. If you can't tell, I feel like I've got that energy about me. No one does this if they had a stable childhood. What, only divorced kids in? Yeah, oh my God. I quite liked it. What do you guys reckon? It's fun. My favourite trick at a party is I like to sort of lock someone in a conversation and tell them about my parents' divorce for as long as I possibly can before revealing that it happened when I was 2. Just keep the attention on me. I liked it. I never caught them having sex with, like, each other. I caught them with other people all the time. Especially Mum. I loved it. Mad for it. She's like, oh, you're a bongo player. Come through. Join the family. I don't care. But I still really love and marriage. Like, I still believe in it all. I think it's so nice. It's so fun. Right? I've got a lot of friends that are very cynical, especially comics are so cynical about love, a lot of them. You know, like, oh, it's just a chemical. Love's just a chemical. Love's just a chemical. I'm like, good, gimme. Like, life is chemicals. You don't go up to someone who's about to do MDMA and go, oh, ba, 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 it's just a chemical. They're like, yeah, I know, that's why I met a guy called Nugget in an alleyway. He had blood on his shirt. I want to feel good. It's fun. I like it. Gimme. I think I'm scared. My thing, I do like, I think I'm a bit silly sometimes, like, grow up. And you're like prancing around. But I love the wedding hashtags. Has everyone across wedding hashtags? Yes. If you don't know, it's like a hashtag people have for their special day. And if you take a photo, they can sort of collate their images. It's actually very, very handy. I'm not going to make fun of it. That's not in my nature. But my favourite thing about wedding hashtags is that no one can own a hashtag. So anyone can sort of just jump on it. Right? Like, maybe I could, right? Maybe I did the other night, right? I found a hashtag. It said hashtag John and Emma forever. I was like, hashtag John and Emma forever. Here's a photo of me folding my mum's cat in half to make it look like it's sucking its own dick. Hashtag John and Emma forever, right? Now, if you're sitting there being like, oh, she's too crude, all right? Can I remind you that Bill Cosby was the cleanest comedian, so... I If I'm up here doing this, I'm not around there doing that. I'm a predator. No, I'm not. Or am I? I don't know. It's hard to know with women. It's different. It's different rules, different game. I would like to get married. I would. I would like to get married. My biggest fear, though, is that my husband will embarrass himself in quite a large way, and I'll have to be like, yeah, no, it's cute. It was funny when you did that. This thing happened. I was with my friend Sophie from the joke earlier, and we were overseas, and we were sort of sitting like on a balcony, and there were stairs leading up to it. We're having a few beers, having a few laughs. You know what it's like. And we were sort of sitting there, and then this married couple joined us, and the wife was lovely. She was quite sweet, but the guy was the worst. He looked like the sort of guy who'd try and crack your back at a party. You know, you're like, no, I'm good. I feel better now. It's weird. It's sorted itself out. But he sort of sat down and just dominated the space, and he was like, girls, you know, it's so important to travel. So important to travel. The world is a book, and those who don't travel only read a page. And he's sort of leaning back in his chair, and he's like, you know, just this year, I've been to Paris, I've been to Rome, I've been to Venice. I loved Venice. And as he said that, he fell down a flight of stairs. And I locked eyes with him as he went down, right? You could just see with every chair leg hitting the step, he's like, my wife doesn't respect me anymore. And then at the bottom, he was still stuck in the chair. He had to wiggle out of it, and he picked it up, came back up the stairs, and I swear to God, he just kept going. He was like, Egypt, Morocco, Spain. Like, girls, you got to learn how to travel. I'm like, you've got to learn how to sit in a chair. You guys are doing a great job tonight. Congratulations. No, I told that story in Canberra, and it didn't get anything. And I was like, oh, I'm going to back myself here. I reckon that's pretty funny. But what had happened was I was sort of playing in like a theatre where it was sort of tiered seating, and some poor guy had come in, he's shuffled in, he'd misstepped, he'd fallen through the cracks, smacked his nose, had to go straight to hospital. I know, my heart goes out to him. But no one told me, so I'm back because they didn't want to throw me off, right? So I came out being like, duh, 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 like trying to be funny with my words, and everyone was like, fuck off, we just saw a much funnier thing happen in real life. What's wrong with you? Like, comedy can never be funnier than your best friend falling off a chair. It's so good. All right, this is going okay. What do you reckon? Yeah. Thank you, I love being validated. So good. So good. I did mention my parents' divorce. I think I'm psychic. Can I try and prove? Everyone's like, oh, fuck off. But hear me out. Can I try and prove it? Yeah? Can I guess your star sign? Yeah. Are you a Gemini? Oh, really? That never happens. All right, cool. All right, cool. Thank you. Whew, that's crazy. That's TV magic, baby. That's so cool. All right, thank you. The reason that I think I'm psychic is because you know when you have a dream that someone does something bad in your dream and you wake up and you're furious? You're just like, you fuck. Last year I had this dream that my boyfriend had cheated on me. And I saw it so perfectly. Like, I saw the girl, I saw where it happened, and I woke up, I was like, like so mad. And I described it to him so perfectly that he admitted that he had. Yeah. So I'm just saying, if you've had the dream, ask a few more questions. But sorry, if you can't tell, I'm a Cancer, both astrologically and socially. I like to rip people apart. But after that happened, we broke up. I was quite sad. And I did what every girl does when she goes through a trauma. I changed my hair. I was going through Instagram the other day. My friend had dyed her hair bright red, and she texted me a few minutes later saying, we broke up. I was like, I know, babe. I saw the Instagram. Because I think it's a real thing. Like, you think if you change how you look when the pain happened, the pain won't happen again. And it's like, well, it will, and now you got a fuck little fringe. You're crying, you look like shit, right? You're screaming, come back, and no one is listening. I cry a lot. Is that relatable? Yeah? Yeah, there's always a girl free in the audience. I cry a lot. I'm a cry-sexual. I love it so much. I cry. Probably cry after this show tonight. We don't know. But I love it. I like to take it on the road. I'll always be walking. I love to listen to Sia and have imaginary arguments where I come out on top. Actually, my friends and I, we've got this thing, we call it the abomination theory. And it's this theory we've developed where we've figured out that in this world there's you, and then there's people who look like you but better. And then there's people who look like you but a bit worse, and we call them your abomination. Right? And it's just like a fun little thing. Like, everyone is one and everyone has one. It's quite beautiful and cyclical. But what we do is every time we see each other's abomination is we'll give each other a call. And I got a call from my friend the other day, and he said, I just saw your abomination, worst one yet. She was real sweaty and she was carrying 2 plastic bags full of chicken, just kind of running along the street. And I said, what, was that like an hour ago? Clever crowd, it was me. On my way home with my chicken to eat it in bed the way God intended. Yummy. So good. I was on a cry walk the other day, actually, and it's a cry walk, and I sort of I heard screaming. I was sort of in a park thing, and I heard screaming. It was like quite intense. Like, I thought it was a murder, or so. It was loud enough for me to sort of take my earbud out, and it was so scary. I really thought it was a murder, and then what I came across was so much worse than a murder. It was 4 adults LARPing. If you don't know what LARPing is, it stands for live action role play. It's where sort of adults get together. They've got top hats and swords and really anything they want. They dress up as fantasy novel characters and video games. It's just a time for nerds to cut sick, right? They're having a great time. They're like, oh, I'm a king. No, you're not. You're an accountant. But they're having a great time, and they were having a really good time. I don't want to, whatever, but it was a bit scary. So I went up to sort of the head nerd, and I said, hey, mate, maybe keep it down a bit. There's kids around. And he sort of turned to me with the confidence of a man not wearing a cape. And he just said, not interested. I have a girlfriend. It's like, of course you do. Just continued on my cry walk. Not before dropping a pin and sending it to my high school bully with the caption, your work is not done. She sent back, ew, yuck. I sent back, I want you to like me still. I don't know why. I liked his confidence, though. I think that's so important when you're dating. You've got to be confident. I was on a date with a guy. He did the most confident thing I've ever seen before. He ordered a mocha. Can you imagine that? I was like, it's a gateway from milkshake to coffee. I'm not getting wet for that. I can't. But he did it so confidently. He's like, 1 mocha, please. Didn't make fun of himself or anything. It was amazing. I was like, oh, that's actually kind of hot. And I didn't, go on a date with him again. God, he ordered a mocha. But next time he'll bring his little blankie. I like that joke. It's definitely my most divisive joke. There's always a guy up the back who's like, they're actually delicious. Is there anyone man enough to admit they order a mocha? Yeah? Are you single? No, that's surprising. How'd you swing that one? Money. Good answer. That's funny. Yeah, it's pretty funny. So why don't you do a show? Or you can't, it's mine. So because I was dating a lot last year, because this is a thing, I don't know if this is comedy or oversharing. At this point, what's the difference? It's hard to say, I just say things and see if you like them. But sometimes when I walk up a hill, I can have an orgasm. Right. I know. I never know what that silence is. I don't know if you don't believe me or you're jealous. I don't. One time this man was like, I can do that too. I was like, oh, no, what you're doing is a crime. That's different. It's cute when I can do it. I can hold 2 bags of chicken. It's good. I'll be with my friends. They're on Tinder looking for guys. I'm just looking for higher ground. So I don't want you to think I'm sex positive either. The other day, this girl had a bag, it said, eat pussy, it's organic. And I was like, all right, I'm having breakfast. Like, I'm glad you're empowered, but if the roles are reversed and that was a guy being like, suck dick, it's paleo, you'd have to call the cops. That's just a bit much, you know? Like, let's not forget that sex is a bit shameful. Right? So the point, it's to the point if I see a pregnant woman walking around, I'm like, you're just admitting it. You're a dirty girl. Not getting my seat on the bus, no. Not after what you did, like it's not. Are there any pregos in? We don't really know, do we? You might know, you might be, you don't know. It's like, I always think like with pregnancy tests, the pregnancy test ads are always for women who want to be pregnant. Like, what about the pregnancy test ads for women who don't want to be pregnant? Like, they're like, it's negative, let's go out again, let's do shots. It's a joke, but it is a good idea if you're in marketing or whatever. Oh, I'm gonna have a sip of this. What's going on? Can someone else do it so hard of you? I live in a share house. I live in a share house, and you know when you're in a share house, you have to sort of have things to keep things moving smoothly, right? You have a few little rules. Like my roommates and I, whenever we're on our way home, sometimes we like to send each other a text just to be like, hey, whatever gross thing you're doing, you've got half an hour to wrap it up. Just so you avoid coming home and finding someone with the laptop shut, like, like, I know what you were doing, you're a grot. Right. We also have another system whereby I use their body wash whenever I want, and I never replace it. It's something we're working on. I like a lot. I remember like when you're living with roommates and you're all single, it's like quite, you know, it's an interesting time. It's because I think when you're single again, you got to bring someone back to your hovel. And you're like, I know why I have a chip packet with a hairball in it, but I can't explain it to you, right? I've just met you. I've known the chip packet for like 3 weeks. It's getting serious. My roommate, he brought a girl back to his place and he didn't have a bed frame, he just had a mattress on the floor. Right, and the girl was like, oh, absolutely not, I'm 29, I'm not a bikie. Which is amazing confidence on her behalf. My God, I've got a tramp stamp that says don't leave. You could bring me back to a bed made of other girls. They'd be like, what school did you guys go to? Just want to be in it. It's fun. I like it. It's hard to get set up. You know, like people try and set you up, they don't care who it's with. My friend tried to set me up with a DJ the other day. I was like, oh, good, I've never had chlamydia before. I should have. But I haven't. I've really rolled the dice, if you know what I mean. I'm like that friend that should be dead, but with chlamydia. You know, my friend has a friend that kind of should be dead. They're always 8 pingers deeper than anyone else. Then you see them a few years later and they're like, yeah, I just bought my second investment home. You're like, what, cunt? You were supposed to die at a music festival. You're supposed to get squished at Splendor. That'll get cut out, I reckon. Probably. Or not, who cares? I'm a bit much. My roommate did try to set me up with his friend. This is how he pitched it. He said he's sick of beautiful girls. He's looking for someone with a bit of character. I was like, oh, yeah? Who is he? Because my self-esteem's here, around there. It's very low. But I went out with this guy. We went on a daytime date. And it was going fine, but by 3 p.m. I'm blind drunk. You know when you just one eye? Like, what's it like being the middle kid? I don't care. And then for some reason I decided to invite him to a gig I was doing that night, right? And I was too drunk to do it. Like, tonight's fun. I'm talking, you're sort of laughing. It was not like that, right? I was very, very drunk. I was too drunk. The MC had to sort of pull me off stage, right? And I came off crying, just screaming, I have nothing. The whole time the guy was just looking at me. The only way it could have been worse is if I just sat down into a bin. Which I probably did, I don't know. But anyway, I somehow got him back to my place, maybe with my, award-winning personality. Huh? Just kidding, I don't win awards. But we went back and I did the gross thing, and then the next morning I was so embarrassed and mortified at my behaviour. Not just the other stuff, but also that he did not think I was funny. Right, so as he left, I decided to show him how funny I could be, and I sent him like a funny message. So as he left, I sent him a message saying, "So, what are we?" He didn't like it. Nil respondez-vous. This is fun. It's not the first time I fucked up with a text message. Before I was on a date and I was trying to be cute and fun. I was trying to trick the guy. And we were sitting next to each other and I tried to send him a message saying, "I want a kiss," with a little emoji going, "Ee," to be fun. But my iPhone auto-corrected it, so all he received sitting next to me was just, "I want a kid." And the emoji was like, "Now in my hand, put it in there, I'll do it later." It's come. I'm empowered, I'm a woman, you can't tell me it's wrong. We are always right. So I was sort of spiralling at this point, if you can't tell. You know when you can feel yourself in a spiral and you're like, "Woo, let's go." Whoop, whoop. And I read this article about this festival in Spain, where you sort of lie in a coffin and your family carries you around the village. And it's supposed to show you that your life it could be worse or better. Like, I don't know, I didn't read it properly, but it's like, oh, you could be dead, so whatever. And I did something similar where I booked a bunch of gigs up in North Queensland. And I'm from there, I'm not being classist, but oh my God, it's fucked, right? So if I took a couple comics with me, we flew in, the promoter picked us up, we got off the plane, he just looked at us and he said, "I tried to get Will Anderson, but anyway, you guys will do." Didn't speak to us the entire time. We got to our motel, it was awful. But I remember there was a very funny sign at the motel. I'll never get over it. There was a sign by the pool, handwritten, that said, "You shall not be allowed in this pool if you've had active diarrhoea in the past 14 days. And I was like, what's happened here? Something not good, I reckon. I love to imagine two guys being put on squirt patrol, right? They've had enough. They're like, "We've got to do up a sign." Oh, they got to figure out how to spell diarrhoea. That's a whole day. I honestly think if you can spell diarrhoea first go, you should be the Prime Minister. They're doing up the sign and then one of them says, "All right, so should we say active diarrhoea?" And the other one's like, "Yeah, definitely, because he's been there longer, he's seen more." Right? He's like, "All right, so no active diarrhoea for 7 days." He's like, "Let's make it 14. Right, which is a long time. That's 2 weeks. I'm always 2 weeks either side of diarrhoea. Are you kidding me? I shouldn't be allowed in the pool today. You're right to laugh. Diarrhoea is funny. It's crazy. It's uncontrollable. It shoots out of your ass. It's hilarious, all right? Now on to politics. No, I'm kidding. Anyway, so we're doing all these gigs around the place. They're all going terribly. We're on our last one. We got picked up. The promoter picked us up, took us to sort of a big shed, but I would say it's just really a place where people could bash each other undercover. And it was just wall to wall with pokies, and we all get up and do our comedy. And I get up, I do the worst. The only sound I got throughout my whole set was when someone won on the pokies, like ding, 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 and I was like, "Yeah, I am a winner." And then afterwards, we're all sort of sitting around commiserating, and a woman walked up to me and she said, "Dale, don't worry, it's not your fault women aren't funny." I know. She hasn't read our tweets. And she's sort of talking to me, and I'm looking at her, and she looks so familiar, like crazy familiar. She's sort of going on, she's telling me how she's a teacher, she's on placement, and suddenly I pick it, and it's my Year 10 drama teacher, Mrs. McCartney, my biggest influence. And I don't know what to say to her. I'm like quite awkward about it all. I didn't know what to do. So I sort of just said goodbye to her and I went back to my motel and I drank half a bottle of white wine. I do what I always do. When I do that, I emailed a woman that I respect. And I emailed Mrs. McCartney, and I want to read out what I wrote to her, if that's okay. I want to read it in the voice that I think I wrote it in, because there is a tone when you've been drinking white wine. It's like, put it anywhere. Okay. All right, so here we go. Hi, Mrs. McCartney. I'm a former student of yours. You taught me about 10 years ago. I'm also the comedian you spoke to after the show. I didn't feel like I could say it at the time, but I want to let you know that you meant a lot to me growing up. I would never have thought about doing anything in the arts if it weren't for you. Actually, maybe I should be angry at you. Ha ha. That is a joke. Women actually can be funny. Ha ha. Anyway, I hope you enjoy your time teaching here, that you have as big of an impact on these students as you did on me. Lots of love, Becky. The worst name. It really is. It's really copped a beating lately. But a lot of my friends are like, oh, why didn't you give her a rinse out? It was quite a mean thing to say. But I don't know. I think she was a good influence, and I'm trying to show her love or whatever. But then her response to me absolutely proved that she is my influence, because she just never wrote back. What a bitch. Okay, yeah, that is actually the end of the show. I know it's anticlimactic, but isn't life? Are there up, no clapping, not yet. I'm still in charge. Any questions or any questions about the show, about my mental health? What was everyone's favourite? No, hey, no, thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate it. And yeah, cool. See ya. Thanks. Bye.
I love coming off stage. It's like the end of when you come home from work. No, it's good. I think it's a great show. If you have a great show, then it's the best feeling. It's so lovely, and go get, a late dinner with your friends, and it's the same as finishing anything that you're kind of nervous or anticipating. I guess it's a hard thing to do. I know there's harder things. It's not the hardest thing, but it is the hardest thing that you have to do in that moment. And so, of course, afterwards, there is a sense of relief. And yeah, if it goes well, it's great. If it doesn't, it's awful. It's an awful feeling.